Well, hey everyone, it's a Black Child here. So let's do this Kenneka video once and for all. It has become the most polarizing issue right now within the urban black online community. And day after day, hour by hour, minute by minute, there are just post after post about this girl being, it being edited, the surveillance footage, and her organs were taken, they were being sold, and all this. And one thing I will say about this story is I I know that this story will save someone's life. Most likely a young black female, which is a good thing. Unfortunately, someone had to lose their life in order for someone else's life to be saved. But it seems like with all the different themes of this story, social media, friendships, fake friendships, drugs, alcohol, sex, rape, sexual assault, partying, all of that, it all ties in with everything or a lot of what young people are going through, what the average young person is going through in today's world, which is social media and all this other stuff. And the story really speaks to that, what it has become. Now, having said that, do I believe, that this girl was the victim of, the organized organ trade? I don't, because I can tell you firsthand that I've worked in hotels, plural. And I can tell you firsthand that drunk people and people on stuff end up in various restricted areas in the hotel. And I know people are not going to want to hear this. I mean, people have been sending me emails, threads, including me in the thread, asking me, will I talk about the story? The majority of the hotels I've worked in, there wasn't any security. There was one person maybe who might have also been the engineer who was doing the dual job of security as well, or just watching the cameras. There wasn't someone dedicated to watching the cameras 24/7. That sometimes it was me and the engineer, or maybe it was just the engineer. But I worked at a few places where they wanted the bell person, the overnight bell person, to be the one to patrol and look out what's going on. And I could tell you that drunk people find their way in various places. That's number one. And then people are showing this video, all these videos of edited, they were saying it was edited, and they're showing you shadows pointing, it's all these videos of people filming on another phone of the footage, and they're, all you're seeing is fingers and people's shadows that are filming it on the other camera. So it's just, and this is what it's become now. It's just become this whole like sideshow. Now they have the Irene challenge, where people are dressing up as this girl who was filming this Instagram or Snapchat or whatever, and it's just become this whole thing. And people believe that she was a victim of this systematic organ trafficking ring. And my theory of that is people don't really understand the true nature of Satanism and organized human trafficking in this country or in the Western world. I mean, if they had to rely upon snatching people like this Kenneka girl, who was drunk and high in a hotel hallway, then they would be, they couldn't function their operation. The operation would cease to exist if they had to do it in that way. And that's why you have a thing called illegal immigrants. That's why you bust them in the truckloads, because these people are vulnerable people, and they're the number one at risk for these type of things to happen. It's not, young black girls from Chicago. It's actually the Mexican illegal immigrants, as well as the Asians and the various other nationalities that come here illegally. They don't just only cross through the border. They also come in through the port. Sometimes you'll hear stories about them coming in shipping containers. I mean, and that's if they actually find them. That's if that they've been they've detected it and obtained these people and then told the media, oh, we found people in a shipping container. That's if you find out about it. So there's a lot of people pouring in and then telling them, oh, well, well, if you come here and have your children here, then your children will be citizens, so they give them this hope to come here so they can get all these benefits, and then potentially, using them for various things. If this is the case, that this is a conspiracy behind this girl's murder, it would have been, or it will be, she would have made history as the first black person to ever garner this much of a cover up by the elites, probably ever. They didn't even do that for Martin Luther King. They didn't do that for literally any Michael Jackson, nobody. I mean, they basically told you the man killed them. So the idea that they're doing all this and they have recruited this Irene girl and they've recruited all these people just to set this one girl up so that somehow or another she could end up in the kitchen or the sublevel, and then end up in a freezer. Now, there's a lot of the story that I'm not really sure of. I mean, they said they found the girl frozen, but people are saying, oh, the freezer wasn't on. Somebody turned the freezer on. That I don't know. I know that the mother, I just saw a video where the mother of this girl is showing the video of inside the hotel and how the freezer looks, and it's a walk-in freezer, meaning you pull the door back and you walk in. And it looked like stuff was in there, so I don't know if it was turned on or not when the girl, went down there. But how did she end up in a freezer? The only thing I can tell you is, it was bad enough she was already drunk. This is an underage person now. She's 19, so she's already drunk. In the Snapchat video, we're already seeing them smoking weed, getting high. So it's already obvious that they're getting high. So what's to say that there wasn't Molly, there wasn't other drugs there? And then when you're taking something like Molly, a Molly pill, I mean, I've never done it, so I can't tell you from experience if you would be like that. But I'm assuming you're pretty, you could be toe up, especially when you're drinking on top of that. So, how she could have ended up in a freezer. I do know that Molly and ecstasy does cause you to be overheated, does cause you to be hot. That's why they always tell people to drink a lot of water if you're taking it, so you don't overheat, to get dehydrated. So, that could have been a reason why she would have ended up in a freezer. She could have been hot. She could have been disoriented and ended up in the freezer. Now, this is not me trying to show for an organized human trafficking ring, because I'm somebody that, if anything, would expose it. But I've worked in hotels. I can tell you that drunk people, they will just appear. Like, they would just appear in restricted areas of the hotel. And the hope is that you don't run into a hostile one. You're not running into a hostile drunk person, because that's always fun. But I've seen firsthand, and you're like, how did you get down in the subway? And then, you get in trouble because, well, how did you let blah blah blah? But I've seen it. I've seen a lot of underage, not a lot, but I've seen underage people coming to the hotel thinking they can get drunk, and usually. I always say, if people want to get stuff, they can get it. It doesn't matter how old or young you are. But usually how I had seen, is one of the managers at the hotel, the same one that was saying, you see this piece of white paper, this is us, this is pure. You see this is yellow, Asian, not good. This same person. There were times where people who were young, who were under 21, would come to the hotel and they were booking the reservation, and I would see times where she would check their ID and they couldn't get into the room until the housekeeping manager, she was in the housekeeping manager to the room to remove the booze, and then they would let them in. So that would basically, I'm assuming that they were bringing their own supplies of, goodies of what they were going to do. And anytime the hotel finds out, it even gets some sort of whiff that there's underage people drinking in the hotel, they're just going to call 911. And then I'm assuming that's how this ended up happening. It was a bunch of people showing up. They were all looking to be underage, drinking. And so they called 911, and then in certain places I was working, they would send me before, oh, we'll go, because being the black person, oh, go talk to them, you could. And then I would go, oh, don't, those are my cousins. And they go, oh, really? Those are your cousins? I'm like, no, they're not really my cousins. They're just other black people that I'm just saying are my cousins. Anyway, they would send me up, the bell person at the door, to go talk to the people, about keeping it down or whatever. But if they even got any idea that there was underage people drinking, they would shut it down. So again, I'm not trying to make this a long video. I just think the story in itself of what it has become will save some young person's life. I mean, whether it be a male or a female, young, black, whatever, old, white, whatever. I think it'll save someone's life, because they'll think about getting toe up, around people they don't know, or they'll think about getting toe up at some hotel that they, some unfamiliar environment. And then apparently the friend of this girl that died worked at the hotel, which, I mean, obviously she lost her job behind this whole thing. That was always it was something I wouldn't do. There were times that maybe coworkers of mine did bring people back, and the people actually did post it online. But again, none of those people ended up dead, because me personally, I was going to make sure that nobody was going to end up dead when I was, off duty there, so that they could blame me. But that was basically, people have just been demanding that I talk about it, and I don't believe that and then people are like, oh, they took her organs. Well, did they even say that she was missing organs? They said she was frozen to death. But I don't think anybody even said that she was missing organs. It was, it's an alleged thing. And then the other thing is this whole Selena Gomez. People are saying that Selena Gomez, which is true. Selena Gomez needed a kid, or she needed a liver, or she needed some organ to keep her alive, And so they released this story, which I had read, that her friend, a best friend, some girl, some girl that she knows very well, donated her own organ to Selena Gomez so that Selena Gomez may live. Now, it was bizarre that nobody had ever heard that Selena Gomez was having issues like this to where she would need a transplant. And I'm chalking that up to, they had already decided that she wasn't going to go on the registry to get one. So she was going to do it either getting someone that she knows, or possibly tapping into this black market operation. Or, to be honest, most people are so brainwashed with these fans that she could have said, oh, donate your organs to me, and they would. But, she said she found somebody, blah, blah, blah. Now, the thing about Selena Gomez is, people are like, oh, they killed Kenneka to give Selena Gomez, and then the Selena Gomez music video. The video with her being in the freezer, I can't explain. I would just chalk that up to synchronicity. Living on this planet, certain energies and certain things are synchronicity without it being perpetrated by these people. Now, the thing about Selena Gomez is that she's from Texas, the illegal immigrant capital of this country. And she speaks Spanish, so I don't think she would have any difficulty rounding up a whole bunch of illegal immigrants and using them for, whatever purposes she would, including giving her a liver or a kidney or whatever it was that she needed. The other thing about the argument that they are using this girl for organs is, or at least for to give it to Selena Gomez, is that, you can't just give anybody's organs and put them into somebody else's. You have to have a match. Blood type. Personally, looking at it from the perspective of duality world, I think that she would prefer to get it from someone that she knows, because it's karma. They definitely, if anyone believes in it, it's these people, and they believe that, I think in her mind, I think you would rather just get it from someone that you know than have that karma, that come back on you, that you sacrificed someone, you ended someone so that you could get their organs. But then I've read a book. I don't remember the exact name of it, but it was like High Adept Satanism and blood drinking, cannibalism, all this. That was actually the name of the book. And there's a few portions in the book where the guy talks about how they have black market system. It's only for duality world. It's, Illuminati, Satanist people that are, once you're a part of this system, you have access to it. And he was just saying it was a booklet. It was a booklet of these people, it was like an illegal immigrant or whomever, and they would be naked, and they have a Polaroid picture of them with their name, their stats and everything. And you just flip through the book, and then you determine who you want, and then they kill the person and then give you the meat. Now, the guy in the book was saying that there was a few stipulations to it, like you couldn't just buy like an arm, or you couldn't just buy like a leg. If you chose the person, you had to get the whole thing. And then he was saying that they would package it in a way where, I mean, now this wasn't just for organs, just so you could get a transplant. It was basically for Satanism, so people could, cannibalize these people. But he was saying that, they would package it in a way that it looks like, average supermarket meat, and then send it to the people, which is, just totally fucking evil. But, so when I thought back to that, and how he was talking about how they would bring the people in at the ports, because the Satanists and everything, they own some of them own the ports, and they own the politicians through, and the whole system. And even, to be honest with you, they even did a whole season of that show, The Wire, HBO's The Wire, about the port and about how corrupt it was. But anyway, he was saying in the book that it was, they were using the port to bring in illegal immigrants, and that, the majority of them they would, send to some sweatshop or whatever. Then some of them would be used for this, other purposes of the black market, and that they would, and then he also said that there was a difference between the different type of meat you could get. Like you could get like adrenalized, which means they're going to torture the person before, or you could just get like, like grass fed, like, oh, we treat them so nice, and, we pet them, and, we really take good care of them, and they don't feel any pain or anything before, we're going to cut them up so you can eat them, So had been thinking back to all of that, and knowing that, of course, Selena Gomez is a part of that, and so is her mother and the stepfather. I mean, they did the hit on Christina Grimmie, so I think so that she could become part of this, 20, 50 million, whatever, club of Hollywood sacrifice and Satanism. So she doesn't need, this whole Kenneka thing for her to live, because she has a lot of options. So again, I think that people really want to see things that aren't there, literally. But I do think that the girl's death, unfortunate that she had to die in that way, will be a cautionary tale for some other young person, and will save their life. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. You kind of hope that in death you will be able to do that for someone else, at least be able to help humanity at large through death. And the girl did that. Unfortunately, though, it's become a circus. Her death had to become a circus in order for her to be able to save someone's life. But I think it is a cautionary tale. Don't do Molly. I mean, if you are going to do Molly, don't do it with people you don't know in an unfamiliar location. And I've always said, brown liquor will be the destruction of black people. And people who know me know that I always say that. It will. And it has. And this girl was a victim, in my opinion, of brown liquor, bad influences, and a Molly pill or two at 19. And then actually, people that I know are telling me that the brown liquor situation in America is actually, I don't think it's at critical, but it's at yellow level, which I think actually is critical. But basically that the Asians in China bought up a significant portion of Hennessy. So they're basically sending it all over there now. And the black people here in America are very on edge, because they have to pay more now for Hennessy, well, just basically for Hennessy, which is, the crown jewel of cognac. So, this is where we are right now. So I think that, again, people, a lot of people have become famous now and doing the reporting on this girl. And I hope that they use their newfound fame to try to enlighten other people, even though I don't believe that, this whole thing, who's the killer? And I'm like, but nobody said that she was murdered, though. I mean, but there is a part of the, it's a conspiracy to cover up the fact that they stole her organs, or that it was a murder or a rape, that they raped her and then murdered her. But there's really, at this point, no evidence. The mother or the family has not said any of that. And it just seems like a tragic accident when you're taking a Molly pill and brown liquor and, having a few hits of a blunt. I mean, the Molly pill is probably obviously what did her in. And just probably being totally disoriented, drunk, wasted, and on a Molly pill. It's not a good combo. And like I said, I've worked in many places where drunk people showed up. And I've also worked in a place where people's false accusations almost destroyed someone's life. And of course, it being a black man. So I was working at the last story before in this video. Last place I was working, the most recent, one of the most recent, I was working, doing an overnight shift, when all these things happen. And I accidentally kind of sort of fell asleep. And when I woke up a few hours later, something said, go downstairs. And so I went downstairs and all the employees were in the lobby. It was like a group meeting. And I was like, oh my God, like they gonna totally flip on me right now. But basically they asked me, like, have you seen a man with no shoes, with a sweatshirt, with a sweatsuit on? He's running around and we're looking for him. I'm like, what are y'all talking about? What man with no shoes or what? So basically the police were there. Someone had called the police from the hotel to say that a man had sexually assaulted a woman, and that they needed to come right now. So basically when the cops showed up, they were looking for this guy who was a black guy. And not only is he a black guy, but he is a term I didn't really come up with, but a term that somebody else used that I said, which was that he was a man about town, quote, because he knows these celebrities and he is a choreographer of some sort. And so I was like, oh man, like when I heard about, because at that point they were still looking for the guy, and I was just like, oh my God, like I cannot believe this, like this black guy is going to go down for this. And then the other employees were telling me like how badly the cops were talking about him, like, oh yeah, like we're going to get him, blah, blah, blah. So long story short, they found the guy a few minutes later or whatever, hiding in a restricted area of the hotel. I mean, he was literally hiding in an area of the hotel with no shoes on, and he had scratches on his face, etc. So they bring the guy downstairs. I'm actually watching as this is happening, bringing the guy down, and I put him in a squad car with no shoes on, and he goes to the precinct. Little do we soon find out a few days later that the district attorney of Manhattan has decided to drop all the charges against this guy because it's basically like the girl made it up, and it was a white girl. Whom I believe was underage. I think this girl was actually the same age as this Kenneka girl. I think she was like 19 or something. So she was underage. This guy I don't know if they really knew each other or whatever, but he invited her up to his room. He gave her booze, and something happened. And her boyfriend showed up, who was an Asian guy, and something went down. But the point is that they dropped all the charges against him, but the damage was basically done. I mean, because when I went on the guy's social media, people were calling him a rapist. They were calling him all types of this just horrible names. And it wasn't, I mean, from what it looks, it wasn't true. I mean, do I believe that if the district attorney and everybody else can bring a black man down who is about something in this world? Absolutely. So if the fact that they were dropping it, especially the way I heard the cops were talking about the guy, that means that somebody was lying. And so that's why it's important to actually really know the facts before you just say stuff. And before you just make allegations that people are rapists, that people are human traffickers. We need to start with at least one fact. And the only fact that we have is that they were all getting drunk, all getting high. And the surveillance footage shows the girl being disoriented. I didn't see any shadows, y'all. I'm sorry. So if you're going to get mad, dislike the video. It's okay. But basically, that was just it. Talk about how this should be and how people should now use what this has become as a cautionary tale. And that's basically all you can ask for, I guess, you know. So anyway, I just would do a quick video on that, because, you know, I feel like the progression of this channel cannot continue unless I do one on this. So there it is. Yeah, sad story, just tragic. But, you know, learn from it. That's the only thing I can say. So until next time, stay in the truth, stay in the Lord. All right.